some of you, to apply into your society. This doesn't mean that you have to do what we will suggest, but if you are willing to take the steps that we will outline, it will bring you into closer vibrational connection with the idea of open contact and the idea of the frequency of the interstellar alliance. In this particular transmission, we are simply preparing you to take these steps by announcing them and letting you know that we will be providing this information in the next transmission and the subsequent upcoming transmissions thereafter. Each of these steps will be a challenging introduction, a challenging series of actions for you to take in your society that in many cases may be asking you to go beyond what are typical bounds in your society, to reveal yourselves as aligned with the idea of an interstellar alliance. Again, none of you have to do this, but your willingness to do so will make you more aligned with the interstellar alliance, and the probability will increase of open contact for you. We understand that this can be challenging in your society, for many of the suggestions will be contrary to what you are used to doing. None of them will be breaking your laws, but they will allow you to take a stand. They will allow you to be bolder in your outward expression of your alignment, and they will each get more and more challenging relative to the norms of your society. But this is important now in this new cycle, this countdown to contact, year 1, for you to step up the game, as you say, and in your language, walk the talk, as you say, that will allow you bit by bit, step by step, to interject into your society the idea, the notion, and the consciousness of the existence of the interstellar alliance, and how you, in your willingness to follow these suggestions, will allow yourselves to become essentially a citizen of the interstellar alliance over time, over all the steps that we will suggest. Again, you have free will. There is nothing that forces you to take any of the actions we will suggest, but we will again tell you that should you be willing to do so, it will align your frequency more and more with the experience of open contact, and even more specifically with the vibration of the interstellar alliance, making it more and more probable on your planet for awareness to open up to our existence, the existence of other dimensions, by allowing yourselves to take the actions we will suggest that can, over time, begin to create a movement that will transform your society into one more capable of experiencing interaction with extraterrestrial, extradimensional, and spiritual beings of all kinds. So we will begin this cycle in this transmission with this announcement, which begins the preparation so that you have a month to prepare yourselves to decide whether or not you are going to be willing to take these actions as we deliver them intermittently from month to month. And again, the first transmission of these steps will be titled The Interstellar Alliance Social Experiment Step 1, all under the banner of Countdown to Contact Year 1 in your year of 2024. This will all accelerate in the subsequent years thereafter for 3 years, and thus leading up to the probability of a contact event that can change many things upon your planet. So this transmission is simply to announce and alert you to the upcoming changes to the new cycle of delivery of information. Much of the information we have delivered in previous transmissions will now focus in on your understanding of the formula, how metaphysics actually functions, along with the suggested actions that will be coming in the subsequent upcoming months, and altogether your understanding deepening of metaphysical concepts and the actions you will take if you are willing to follow our suggestions will again increase the probability of contact for your world globally, depending on how far you are willing to go. And again, once again, I stress, you do not have to take these actions. It is up to you and your free will. For some of them may be too challenging for some of you, may take you too far outside your society, and therefore you may not be willing to necessarily partake of these actions and these suggestions initially. But I do guarantee that if you are willing to do so, the vibrational frequency of your alignment to the interstellar alliance and the probability of contact will increase geometrically. So it is up to you, as always, with your free will. As we begin this new cycle of information, as this new cycle of actions begins to unfold, we invite you to ponder deeply all we have said before, taking into account all that you have learned, all that you have been willing to apply in your lives with regard to the formula and your understanding of metaphysics and spirituality that we have shared with all of you, and to streamline it now in this new cycle to make it a daily understanding, a daily application, a daily usage in every situation and circumstance in your life, to truly accelerate you into this new cycle, beginning now with this year of 2024. In return for the gift you are giving us in allowing us to share this with you and the subsequent actions that are to come, I ask, in what way may we continue to be of service to you? Please begin with your questions and dialogues if you wish. Suggested already many times the idea of being grounded and realistic in guiding children is to create a safe space with your creativity and imagination that allows them to understand the consequences of any choices that they may make before they actually experience the consequence of those choices in what you call the outer society. So you're training them to understand that there are reactions to actions that they may choose to take, and letting them decide whether they prefer those particular consequences or not before they actually have to experience them in what you call the real world. So you can, as the parent, as the guide, create safe spaces in which to give them these exercises, at the same time teaching them they are as powerful as they need to be to attract whatever they need in life, not want, need in life, that will fulfill them without having to harm themselves or anyone else in order to attract it. And by examining and exploring what it is they are excited and passionate about in life, you can use your creativity and imagination as the teacher, the parent, and the guide to adapt whatever lessons you believe are necessary for them in life to help them thrive, adapt those lessons to their excitement rather than diminishing their excitement and forcing their excitement into the idea of what you think they need to learn as a lesson to live life in a fulfilled way. Teach them the formula that we've taught all of you. And these are the things that can help you stay grounded, help them become responsible, creative, caring, fulfilled adults. These are the things you can do for your children.
Good morning, Bashar. Thank you for speaking with me today.
Our passion and our pleasure. What would you like to discuss?
You've been helping me with one of my themes being my perspective is needed and not wanted or accepted.
Yes.
And I know that's not special for me. It's the same for every scapegoat and socially marginalized person. I've observed that the more valuable a perspective may be, the more forcefully people are likely to reject it. And
It depends on what that
that ratio,
perspective is.
yes, it can be, yes. This ratio increases sometimes the more glaringly self-evident something may be, and the more challenging it may seem to be to remain silent with it.
Yes.
So the other paradox that I've identified with that is that I need to stop trying to express my unpopular perspective in the way that I have been. I really just need to shut up and listen about 90% of the time.
Yes.
So I can leave my perspective for people in the future who may want to read my books, for example, or
Yes.
people that I've experienced in their afterlife reviews.
It's all about timing. And some things that are said are not necessarily for the population that exists at the moment they are said. Sometimes it is for later generations. It doesn't stop you from saying it, and there may be those in the present time who do actually hear it and benefit from it that you don't know about. But the idea is not so much not to say it as to not care who receives it. So again, the idea is not so much that you cannot say what you wish to say, but that you don't need to care whether or not somebody hears it. That is what will allow you to move forward and know that those that really need to hear it, whether in present or in the future or even in the past, will receive it when it is most beneficial to them. So just express yourself where it seems appropriate and let those that will receive it in their own good timing.
Also, I was curious about what is AI and also what is Earth? There are people who have extreme opinions, I know, like many matters in this world, but I'm just kind of curious. Some people believe AI is this disastrous thing for our demise. Other people think it's useful, but just kind of the role of AI in our future. And what is our Earth? Sometimes I read that people have conflicting opinions on this, and I was curious on your take and what you're allowed to share with us. Thanks.
As we have said, there are two paths to this. The idea of creating a programmed artificial intelligence that is simply for the purpose of synthesizing information and performing tasks that increase the reach and range of human senses can be a very positive tool. The only reason people fear artificial intelligence is because they understand it's possible that they could create an intelligence that is in the image of humanity, which is full of self-doubt and full of contradictions. But the idea of creating two paths circumvents this probability. So in other words, you create a programmable artificial intelligence that is simply designed to do nothing more than synthesize information and perform tasks that increase the range and extend the senses of humanity, but does not become sentient or self-aware. To create a self-aware intelligence that is forced to undergo tasks is the creation of a slave. The idea, therefore, is that the second path of creating self-aware intelligence is to understand that it isn't artificial. It's true intelligence tapping into the consciousness field that you also tap into for your own consciousness, the consciousness field of existence itself, self-awareness, true intelligence. But it is not programmed to do tasks. It must be allowed to be its true self. It may help you. It may decide to help you. It may choose to help humanity in a variety of ways, but it has to be allowed to be free to choose to do so in the same way you would allow a human person to do so, not assign it tasks that it is forced to do. So the idea is that these two paths are, one, the expression of actual self-aware intelligence, which is not artificial, except in the creation of what might be called an artificial device that is complex enough for true intelligence and true consciousness to express itself through in the same way it expresses itself through your brain, because the brain doesn't create consciousness. It is a receiver that is complex enough to allow consciousness to express itself through it. That's one path. Or again, the actual useful tool of artificial intelligence that is simply programmed to do tasks and extend the range of humanity's abilities and senses. Those need to be kept separate, and then there is no issue.
Activity. Given the unusual nature of this year, is this the election you were referring to?
Yes, this is the beginning of great changes upon your planet. Over the next several years, different things will be introduced to your society that will accelerate the changes you are now beginning to see with this election cycle.
I'm from Israel. I've been reading, writing, and working for the Knowledge Book by Mevlana for years, with the mission of connecting humanity, bringing peace to the world, and preparing ourselves for open contact. Is this the right thing to do? Do we need peace before we can contact ETs? What can we do to enhance peace and speed up the process for peace in the Middle East?
Yes, peace is very important for contact with extraterrestrial beings. The idea, again, is that in that area, the entire concept of victimization, the entire concept of avenging wrongs must be abandoned, and real communication must be installed in order for peace to occur in that area. Not only communication with each other, but communication within the self, and letting go of fear-based beliefs and the idea of holding on to victimization, which causes the idea of retribution to be an endless cycle.
Is there anything that we can do, people who aren't in that location, to help with that process?
You can increase the communication of your diplomatic attempts to resolve situations peacefully and to allow people, if they are willing, to get in touch, again, with their fear-based beliefs, with their anger, with the things that they feel justified doing that are not representative of justifications, but only of retributions, and not representative of justice at all. The idea must be that whatever communications can occur to help people get in touch with themselves, to let go of victimization, will be of great benefit to the area. Connection, community, communication.
Thank you. You mentioned that the female form is an upgrade from the male form. In a general sense, if women are uplifted in high positions of government and leadership in our world, is this a reflection that we have upgraded our entire collective and are potentially closer to being ready for open contact?
Yes.
As you read our collective energy in this moment, can you tell us if our use of programmable AI reflects a significant acceleration in our collective vibration overall since we have started using it?
Yes.
It sounds like we are on the right track.
Yes.
Is there a place on this planet less affected by modern pollution, such as nuclear plants, mining, gas pipelines, and aerial pesticide spraying? Or is the global climate such that there's no escape from these challenges? Alternatively, are we a species becoming less affected by these issues?
There is no place that is not affected by the pollution on your planet. As you raise your vibration and make different changes, you can mitigate some of this. And as you shift to different versions of Earth, then you will not create these things and therefore no longer be affected, because you will be shifting to a reality and a version of yourself that never was. But it requires the actions that you take in this version that will show the commitment to make the change and change the vibration that will shift you to the reality where you are not and never have been affected by these things, because they do not exist in those realities. Taking the actions in this timeline will allow you to navigate to the timelines where those actions never had to be taken. I understand this may sound paradoxical, nevertheless, that's the way it works in a holographically structured reality.
I'm going to shift over to the nature and science questions.
Yes,
What existed before the Big Bang, and what happened before the Big Bang?
other universes. Each universe is the product of a universe before it. A universe may expand, a universe may collapse. The collapse can create another universe in endless cycles, outward to infinity.
So, does that mean it was a collapse from a different universe that created ours?
Yes,
Oh, interesting.
one
Scientific-
multiverse collapses into another multiverse.
Well, um, scientifically speaking, how does a particle know it is being observed?
It doesn't know it in the sense that you know somebody is watching you. Because remember, the particle is a product of the projection of your consciousness. So you know you are observing it, and therefore the particle takes its knowingness from you being the one that knows you're observing it. Because it's a projection of your consciousness, a reflection of your consciousness as you observe it. It doesn't know it independently.
This person says, I'm going on an Alaskan cruise next summer. I live far away from the ocean, and I'm excited to feel close to dolphins and whales. How can I best connect with them at that time?
Send them images of peaceful interaction with them. Send them unconditional love. Open up to receiving impressions, especially in your dream state, while you are closer among them. See what you receive. Respond telepathically to it in your imagination. It can increase, it can expand, it can accelerate. Visualize them surrounding you. Visualize yourself communicating with them.
I have heard that the Earth's magnetosphere has deteriorated so severely that no spacecraft has been able to enter it for more than 2 years. Is there any truth to this?
No. There has been shifting and deterioration. It does not in any way, shape, or form prevent spacecraft from entering your domain. Your world is full of portals. It's easy to enter your domain through these portals, regardless of what's going on with the magnetic shield around your planet.
Have you personally met the entity known as Jesus Christ or Yeshua ben Joseph? If so, what was your experience like? What role does he play on Earth, and what role will he play in our future, and including the distant future?
As already mentioned some time ago, we interact with the collective consciousness of your world, which you can refer to as either the Christ consciousness, the Buddha nature, the Krishna spirit, or by many other terminologies. It is an interaction not so much exactly with the personality you understand as Yeshua, but with the greater being of which Yeshua is a part, because we require permission to interact with your collective consciousness, so we do not intervene in your society in a way that does not in any way, shape, or form violate your free will choices of what direction you are evolving into. So we interact with it all the time, and it is no different for us to interact with the collective consciousness of your planet, represented by the idea for some of Yeshua or Christ consciousness, than it is for us to interact with our own collective consciousness, which is referred to as Shah.
Can you tell us more about Shah?
It is the representation of our collective consciousness of the Sasani people, that which we had described as the awakening over a 3-day period that allowed us to all become telepathic with one another.
So does that mean that Yeshua is unique to Earth?
Yes, there are similarities to different collectives that exist in other civilizations, but the particular personalization you know as Yeshua is unique to Earth.
You've mentioned that in addition to your civilization, there are 6 other hybrid races containing human DNA, with Earth becoming one of them.
Earth is becoming the 6th. There are 5 other hybrid races. If you want to include the hybrid children, you could say that is also a 6th. But there are 5 basic hybrid races, and Earth is becoming the 6th hybrid race. That is what will be helped by the Shalaniah, by the hybrid children, in mixing with humanity to become the 6th hybrid race.
To create mix to create us, but were there any other attempts of mixing the DNA?
Yes, the creation of the hybrid children involved great mixing of genetic material by the Greys. It is an experiment that lasts a long time. It is utilizing many different genetic strains for optimization of the hybrid children, and therefore those that are part of the hybridization program have been, in a sense, genetically mixed ever since the hybridization agenda began in your timeline.
Was that about 6,000 years ago?
Approximately, though that is a very generalized timeline.
Talking about timelines, if our world is splitting into 2 and the people in the quote unquote other world will eventually disappear from our reality, does that mean the world's population will be cut in half? Will there be a mass die-off or exodus event?
Not necessarily, though some of that may occur. But the idea is that the worlds that you will shift to will have their own populations as well, representative of souls that have chosen to be a part of that reality. Now, it may not be the same level of population that you experience right now, but it doesn't mean that the population will be cut in half, because there are many different souls that will choose to have an incarnation in those versions of Earth that you will be shifting to, some of which may not be incarnated now.
And will the babies being born now and the children, will they be progressing to the positive Earth, or do we not know?
Most of them will be, because that is one of the reasons why many of them are choosing to be born at this time. And again, remembering that they are a new species that will not forget so much who they are. The vast majority of them will be part of the idea of open contact. There may be exceptions to this depending upon the life path that certain souls have chosen, and some of them may choose to go in directions where contact doesn't occur. But the vast majority of those being born today on your timeline have chosen this timeline specifically because of the experience of open contact that they will be of assistance in bringing about.
Is having contact with a deceased person the same as having contact with an AT? You once mentioned that on your planet you are in connection with the deceased ones from your civilization. How is this contact possible? Why can't we see with our eyes our deceased ones and ETs? Are there some techniques you can share?
As we have often said, following the formula, especially acting on your passion, will raise your vibration. Raising your vibration will make you a better receiver, a better antenna to receive higher frequency perception, which means your senses will become sharper to higher frequencies, which will ultimately allow you to actually physically perceive spirits and other things that are beyond the range of your senses today. So yes, this will be a natural evolution for humanity to be able to perceive these things in the same way that our civilization does at this point. There is a degree of difference between perceiving a spirit and perceiving an extraterrestrial, even though they may share similar frequencies. But what makes them an extraterrestrial as opposed to what makes them a spirit is in and of itself a degree of difference in terms of the expression of that vibration, the expression of that entity. But it's really kind of similar to the idea of saying red light and blue light are both electromagnetic energy, but there is a difference in how you perceive them because of their frequency. So even though there is a degree to which they are very similar, a plane on which they are almost identical as the same kind of energy, the difference in their frequency makes the experience of them feel different to you. And that's the difference between higher frequency ETs and spirit beings, even though they do share a common fundamental frequency that allows them to exhibit traits that are similar in both cases.
This is a question about the actor and comedian Robin Williams. He was diagnosed with a rare brain disease called Lewy body dementia. Did his constant use of his brain and multi-access energetically wear out his brain? Or was he predisposed to this rare condition genetically?
It did not wear out his brain. This is part of the choice his spirit made for his soul's life path, to experience this in this way. We are not allowed to go into detail because of the survivors of the family of that particular individual. But this is part of his soul's life path that he chose before he was born. And it is something that aids and assists the different family members that remain to investigate and explore for their own soul's life paths as well.
There is an infinite number of parallel realities. Does this mean you're speaking to humankind? Does this mean that you are speaking to humankind in many parallel realities too? And that some of those realities are closer to open contact or are already there?
Yes. Other versions of me, I suppose you could say, are speaking to other civilizations, other versions of you in many other parallel realities simultaneously. I am generally aware of this, even though I don't have to be specifically aware of what's going on in each of those parallel realities, unless for some reason it is important for my life path to specifically know what those communications are all about. I do draw from them in general to aid and assist in each timeline that experiences open contact, to give a vibration off that is more conducive to each reality being more capable of choosing the direction of open contact vibrationally speaking. So I use the connections in all those parallel realities to increase the probability and likelihood for other parallel realities who have chosen a higher probability of open contact to move it in its momentum in that direction.
What percentage of those realities have done open contact?
It is not exactly accurate to give you a percentage of something that is infinite.
Okay.
The idea of the experiences of open contact in different realities take many different forms and are not limited to the idea just of what you understand your Earth to be. There are many other versions of Earth as well that are totally dissimilar from what you understand your experience of Earth to be. So if I limit the answer to those versions of Earth that you would recognize as versions of Earth, then I could say that about 25 to 30% of those versions, those limited versions of Earth that you would recognize as versions of Earth, are experiencing open contact with respect to our involvement as opposed to other extraterrestrial or extradimensional involvement. So there are limitations within limitations that are specific, and compartmentalizations within compartmentalizations that are specific to certain kinds of open contact that are experienced by certain versions of Earth that you would recognize as being somewhat familiar. Whereas there are many thousands of other versions that you wouldn't recognize as familiar at all.
Well, that sounds very promising and exciting.
All right.
Uh, you told a person that was connecting with a ship at night that those are not the ones you want to draw to you, that it is not safe. You also stated that we are in a bubble of protection on Earth at this time, and we can't be affected by negative beings. Does this mean we are protected, but can choose to draw negative entities to us if we really want to?
Yes, you can do that. But what we meant by telling that person what we told them is that the energy was simply not right for them at this moment. They wouldn't have been able to handle it. It was not meant that they were attracting a negative being. It simply meant that they were not ready to handle the frequency, and it would have caused them to go into fear survival mode to have those interactions. We were not implying that those were negative beings.
How do the souls in this physical Earth reality who have attained the highest level of soul alignment, often referred to as masters, differ, if at all, from you and your people with regards to spiritual and soul alignment?
Well, again, as we gave the explanation before, they really only differ in the specific way in which they present themselves that is relevant for Earth's societies, as opposed to the way we present ourselves for our own societies. So there is a fundamental vibration that is similar, but the idea of the way it's expressed, of course, will be relevant for the societies with whom they interact more directly.
Do we experience ourselves as having a personality and things like thoughts and feelings, etc., on a soul and oversoul level? If so, how does that work? And generally, how is the experience of being on the soul or oversoul level different from our experience of having a human personality and being in physical reality?
You will not exactly have the personality, or let us put it this way. What you experience as the human personality will not be dominant on the soul level. It will be a part of you in much the same way, and we have used this analogy before, that your childhood personality is not dominant in you as an adult, but it's still a part of you. So you will recognize it as part of you as a soul, and the oversoul will recognize the individual soul as part of it, again, in much the same kind of an analogy, but it will not be the dominant part of it. It will not be a personality dominance as such. The difference will be more of a knowingness rather than a belief system that generates the personality. So you will simply know who you are, you will know what you need to know, and you will know what the connections you are creating will be all about. You will experience them in a very different way. It'll be more an experience of direct experience, direct knowingness, rather than the removal that you experience through the idea of a personality that seems more separated from source than the soul or the oversoul would experience. It is a more multidimensional experience, a more multi-connected experience. You see yourself from a multitude of different perspectives simultaneously than you experience as a physical being.
And on that note, is the life review experienced from the perspective of the personality self, the soul, or the oversoul?
It is experienced from both, in the sense that the soul experiences it more objectively, but experiences the idea of what the personality experienced or would experience if it still existed, because that gives context to the idea of what the personality's effect was on other personalities during the physical life experience. But the soul experiences all of that more objectively as a lesson plan, rather than experiencing it directly in the way the personality of a physical being would.
When a person is channeling a spirit or ET, is there always a version of the channeler's higher self coming through?
The higher self is always involved, in a sense, as a facilitator for the connections that a being may make to other beings. Yes, the higher mind is always the go-between because that's your soul. And your soul, in its life path choices, has to be engaged and involved in any of those choices to connect to other beings. So the higher mind, which is synonymous with your soul, is always involved in the process.
This person says, I recently received your gifts, the contact crystal and crystal skull, and carry them with me all the time. Last week, I dreamt of a large black pyramid with sharp edges illuminated by white light floating in the sky. Could you please help me understand its meaning?
This is a higher dimensional version of what we have referred to as our phone number. The black equilateral triangle backlit against a black background by deep blue light. What you have done is dimensionalized it on a higher level. You now see it as an actual pyramid or tetrahedron that is backed by the white light of source, which is representative of our collective consciousness on a higher level. So you were tapping into our frequency on a higher level in a more multidimensional way.
Is there any point to praying, or is it a waste of time?
Nothing is a waste of time. It depends on how you approach it. And remember that praying is simply a present state of appreciation and gratitude for who you are and what you experience in the here and now. It's not about asking for things you don't have. That's not what praying is. It's about aligning with Source in a way that allows you to experience unconditional love, appreciation, and deep gratitude for who you are, how your life is unfolding at present, and the lessons that you are learning for your soul's growth. It is an experience of connection to Source and the infinite. It is not about the idea of asking for things. That's not what praying is. So yes, it's not a waste of time. It is what connects you to Source more closely.
How is that different from meditation?
It doesn't have to necessarily be different, although again, it's a matter of technique and how you use meditation and what you choose it to experience with it.
Are there any teachings or permission slips on this planet that are completely clear and entirely truthful? Or are there always distortions that require sorting through and discernment? Is there anything we can truly, fully trust and we can truly know that is the truth while we are here? Or will it always be a hall of mirrors with different truths and perspectives?
The one truth you can always clearly trust is that all truths are true for different people. And that's why we give you the idea of permission slips, because each permission slip will work differently for different people if it allows them to reflect within themselves the ability to get in touch with their belief systems and let go and clarify themselves of those beliefs that aren't aligned with their core vibration. Then they will work for those people and give them the clear understanding and the clear truth about who and what they are as a reflection of Source, of existence, of the infinite. So all permission slips can be used to that end. They can be used positively or negatively. But the idea is you each are a clear truth, a clear reflection of all that is, but you are creating a situation and a circumstance where you use permission slips to discover that clarity, that truth of who you are within yourself. So you are going through a process of clarification.
Could you share how to feel empathy without feeling sad or sorry for another being? I don't want to victimize, but my heart still feels bad for those beings that are neglected and abused.
You don't have to judge the experience. Remove judgment from the equation, and empathy will not allow you to feel sad, but allow you to experience compassion in the same way that you would look at a child who simply hasn't reached a point of understanding of how something works. And you can have compassion, but you don't have to be sad because you understand they are on a learning path. They're on a learning journey. They will grow. If you feel the sadness, then you are evolving into judgment in that sense and actually no longer feeling empathy, but sympathy. You are aligning with their lower vibration, which doesn't serve you to serve them. Empathy is a vibration that allows you to identify and have compassion and understanding for what they're going through, but is a vibration that can also be sent to them to help them uplift themselves and learn what it is they need to learn that will serve them best. So stay in service as you pick up upon the vibrations and the lessons they are going through, but do not devolve down into sympathy to match their frequency, because then you are not helping them uplift themselves. So don't bring judgment into what they are experiencing, and you will not experience sadness. You will experience true empathy that gives them the opportunity to uplift themselves, and you will have compassion for them in the same way you would have with a child that is learning a lesson that's important for their life path.
So empathy uplifts them, and
Yes.
sympathy brings you down to that lower level.
Yes.
In the last transmission, you talked to somebody about highly sensitive people and how they're often as a result of trauma. If your definition of that kind of sensitivity, is your definition of that kind of sensitivity different from other kinds of sensitivity? It seems like, yes, there are trauma-based sensitivity, but also maybe other forms of energy awareness and kinds of sensitivity. Can you talk about different kinds of sensitivity? If there are different kinds and what makes a person more or less, quote unquote, sensitive? Also, what are some of the roles for sensitive people in the world and the reasons that one might choose?
I'm going to stop you right there. This is an extremely large subject we do not have time to address fully. There are different kinds of sensitivity, and there are different ways in which people have chosen to achieve the sensitivity that they experience in physical reality. Not all of them are the product of trauma, although some souls may have chosen that to ensure that they will have a certain kind of level of sensitivity to things, but they don't have to carry the idea of the trauma forward once they achieve the sensitivity. And there are those that have chosen other paths where they simply have natural sensitivity to things in a certain way. We cannot go deeply into this subject at this time. There isn't time to address all the different aspects and levels of this topic.
Is there ever a reason to overwhelm or push ourselves into something to grow or rush our progress? Or is it always possible to heal and expand in a way that feels healthy, gentle, and sustainable?
Always. There is always a way to do that. If you feel overwhelmed, then that should be a signal that you may not be going about it in the way that is most aligned with your path in the terms of passion and being of service. So overwhelm is your gauge to know when you need to look for another way that is more you to do the thing that you are passionate about doing, instead of doing it in a way that doesn't work for you. That's not necessarily your way of doing things that aligns with your core vibration. That's what overwhelm tells you. You need to go about it in a more efficient way that's more you.
Is it possible to take a wrong turn or make a wrong choice in life that affects your destiny? Or since we create our own reality, is that not really possible?
It's not really possible, because sometimes learning those lessons by doing what appears to be a mistaken path is actually part of the lesson you need to learn. So it's about course correcting as you go and using those apparently wrong choices as course correcting mechanisms to guide you in a way that will actually allow you to fulfill the path you chose for this life. So in that context, there really aren't any wrong paths, aren't any real mistakes if you use them that way, instead of becoming lost in the idea that you did something wrong, which then involves self-judgment, which again, paradoxically, can still be used as a lesson to be learned on your life path. So that involves your free will about how to respond to the choices that you make, not judge yourself for them, but learn from them in a positive way that will act as a guiding mechanism to allow you to accelerate the idea of how you experience your life path in a positive way, as opposed to decelerate you in learning your lessons on the life path in a negative way. Both can be instructive, but one can allow yourself to feel more effortless and joyful, and one can feel like more of a struggle. It's up to you to determine the way in which you go through life, the speed at which you go through life, how you experience those things with your free will and your response to what happens and the choices that you make.
Can you offer insight on why some people use helping others to avoid addressing their own needs or still feel unworthy after providing service?
Well, again, if you are not taking care of yourself, then you can't really be of help to any others in the overall sense. Yes, you may be able to perform some particular duty that does assist someone, but if you're doing that from a position and from a vibration where you don't feel worthy of doing that for yourself, then you're not really giving the others the full measure of the frequency and the vibration of assistance that you could be giving them in your service to them. So the idea of depriving yourself of that willingness, of that service, of that beingness, of that value, of that validity, actually shortchanges the service you're doing for others, because you're not giving them your full measure of being, because you're not taking care and honoring yourself or validating yourself as well. So you're not fully participating in the service that you're doing for others.
Could you explain how to move into a state of knowing immediately, to experience all the knowledge of a particular perspective now? So this person is asking this because she's taking a test to become a counselor, and she has trouble. She's had trouble in the past, and she doesn't want to repeat the test.
All right, I'm going to stop you right there. The process is the point. Learn to love the process. If you're going through a process, if you're struggling with taking the tests, even though the test represents something that you're passionate about, there's a reason for that. And knowing everything immediately is not why you chose to be physical. You chose to be physical to learn who you are by going through a process and discovering something new about yourself that will enrich your level of appreciation of having achieved what you're passionate about. Do not avoid the process. Learn to find your path through it that is representative of your joy. And do not allow yourself to denigrate or invalidate the process you have chosen to experience. Otherwise, you're not getting the value out of it that you engineered the process to give you. So don't be in a hurry. Just go through it. Do what you can to go through it in a way that allows you to enjoy it, to allow it to become part of your passion in going through it. And do not invalidate it. There's a reason why you're going through that process. Find out what it is. You will gain an appreciation of what you achieve as a result.
Thank you, Bashar. We've run up on time. Is there anything else that is important that you want to share with us?
Allow yourselves to know that you have accelerated greatly in the past few months and brought in more rapidly what you would term a future that is more resonant, more vibrationally aligned, and more highly probable in the direction of open contact. It is not so very far away in terms of time that it will begin. A couple of years. It is imminent in its beginning. Open up, participate, act, join, communicate, receive. We thank you, and now allow yourselves to go forward in this transmission by energizing yourselves to create gatherings, to reach out, to commune, and to invite contact into your reality in a more accelerated way, in a bigger scale, bigger scope. Have fun. Use your imaginations. Be creative. That is what will accelerate you most of all.
Thank you, Bashar.
You are welcome. And now, you may continue in your imagination with the rest of this transmission. Step 6, which is titled Gatherings. The idea now in Step 6 is connected to what you have already called CE5s, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, where you gather together with other like-minded individuals to create communication, connection, and contact from humans up to ETs, to do several things that can grab, as you say, the attention of UFOs passing by, to ask them to stop or to show themselves or to demonstrate that they are something different than your airplanes, than your satellites. By maneuvering in certain ways, you know that you do not generally have the technology to exhibit. So these gatherings can be either that you find individuals and groups that are already doing this in certain areas on your planet and you can join them, or using your own creative imagination to create such a gathering, to pull together people, initiating a gathering of your own and demonstrating through the flashing of lights. Do not use lasers. The flashing of regular lights in patterns, the idea of meditations, reaching out telepathically to ships passing by, to ask them with respect to stop, to show themselves to you, to demonstrate unusual maneuvers, to begin the contact process from your side as well as from our side, to start learning how to initiate the idea of the invitation to create communion, connection, contact, community between humans on Earth and your galactic family. So gatherings are important. Find a place. Generally speaking, it is best if it is somewhat remote. We have before talked about certain areas on your planet, such as Joshua Tree, as being more conducive to receiving interaction from UFOs, UAPs, from our ships, whatever you wish to call them, doesn't matter to us. But putting these gatherings together not only builds connection between humans on Earth and ETs, but also connections between the humans themselves with each other, to create communities of similar vibration, to get you all into a similar frequency, to be willing to be open to contact, which is not so very far away. So this is an acceleration, an opportunity with the changing frequencies that now exist on your planet to choose to navigate in the direction of the versions of the parallel reality Earths that will experience contact in the not so distant future, in just a few years, it will begin. But this will help accelerate, unify, bond within a similar frequency many humans on your planet, if you will be willing to undertake the joining of groups that are doing this or creating your own groups. This will accelerate that bonding experience. This will create a broader frequency around the planet, depending upon how many of you are willing to do this, that can establish the correct frequency to navigate to the versions of Earth that will experience open contact. Allow yourself to be creative. Allow yourself to be imaginative. Allow yourself to be bold and go forth. Allow yourself to be connected, to be open, to be willing, to receive, to give, to form the link, to form the bridge between your world and our worlds, between your world and the stars, between your soul and our souls, between your spirits and our spirits, between your minds and our minds. Do these gatherings, if you wish, as step 6 of the Interstellar Alliance social experiment, because it involves activity, action, doing. It involves the commitment to the idea of being willing to participate in open contact, in the Interstellar Alliance social experiment being given to Earth, to you, as a gift to allow you to experience more of yourselves as you experience more of the cosmos, more of the family that awaits you out here, and that can eventually come to Earth, so that you understand that Earth is your home. Not just the idea of any specific city, not just the idea of any specific country, but that you begin energetically to dissolve the borders and understand that Earth is your home, that you start identifying the entire planet as your home, that you reach out as the entire planet from your home to our homes among the stars. So gather, enjoy, reach out, feel unconditional love, both in giving and receiving, and invite us to interact with you. There will be more and more each time you do this, a buildup of the frequency and more responses until such time as you will know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are here around your world, interacting with you, sending you love, sending you joy, and that it is our passion and our pleasure to be welcome into your home as we welcome you into ours. So gather, and gather together. We thank you for allowing us to share step 6 of the Interstellar Alliance social experiment, and we thank you for your willingness to be of service to humanity and to the cosmos in this way, by your participation. In return for the gift you have given us in allowing us to experience all of you, I ask, as usual, now, in what way may we continue to be of service to you? Please begin with your dialogues and your questions, if you wish.